right.
Welcome to Your Impact Story. Our goal is to inspire you to have a positive impact on the world around you. And now, here is author, speaker, coach, and our host, Dustin Rogers.
Hey friends, welcome back to Your Impact Story podcast. I'm your host, Dustin Rogers. I'm joined today with the man, Kelly Moser. Kelly Moser is a motivational speaker and leadership coach. He is the CEO of the Moser Movement. We're going to learn all about that today. He is a certified high-performance coach and a dynamic speaker leading business transformation. With a science-based curriculum, Kelly empowers high performers to overcome income barriers and reclaim valuable time. As a successful entrepreneur, he's an expert in leadership development, sales, team building, and rapid scaling. Kelly's motivational yet practical approach, epitomized by the tagline, "Move Your Butt," inspires individuals and teams to approach new levels of success. With a proven track record and captivating style, Kelly is a cutting-edge speaker your event needs to leave your audience transformed, inspired, and eager for more. You can book Kelly. We'll have the links in the podcast to book Kelly for your upcoming event: leadership development, high-performing coaching, personal development, sales without sleaze, goal setting and achievement, success mindset, time management, and productivity. Let's meet Kelly now. The man, Kelly Moser.
Hey, I hope to live up to that. This is where you always insert some self-deprecating thing. Your intro is very grandiose. Hopefully I can add some value to your audience. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your time. This is exciting. So for our listeners that have been following along, this is the first episode that has not been recorded in two different locations, but the first one that we filmed live in person. So thank you for making this happen all the way from Florida.
Yeah.
Very much appreciate that. And we're sitting today in the Historic Earle Theatre in downtown Mount Airy, North Carolina, where both of us were born and raised.
Yeah.
Better known to a lot of folks as Mayberry. So we've got a really cool setup today. Appreciate you making the trip. Appreciate your time. And so let's dive right into it. Let's talk about right out of the gate, big intro, lots of awesome things going on for you and your career and impacting other people's career. But everybody looks at somebody else's journey, at where they are, and then we naturally compare it and say, well, look where he is today. And I don't know how I could ever do that. I'd love to do this or I'd love to do that, but this is where I am today.
Right.
So let's kind of build that bridge for the audience and talk through what got Kelly to where he is today. Start back early life. Who impacted you early on in your life?
Yeah. I'm going to do my best to tell a story for someone who's listening that is sitting at their desk, who's staring at the ceiling at night going, I really wish I could do this thing, or I should do this thing, or I want to do this thing. And then they have that but.
Right.
That's the tagline, move
Right.
your butt. So these butts hold us back. So, and I could not sit here and be in this great place and have this opportunity without talking about those people that help you. And first and foremost, it's a family. I won the family lottery. I come from a great family, the type of family that's, church on Sunday, and then we're at Granny's house on Sunday afternoon, and it's sharing a meal, it's swinging a golf club in the backyard, it's playing a game, so a really tight-knit family. And I think given families that cross several generations, you get to see younger versions, you get to see older versions, and everything in between. I think that really impacted me because you see the way adults interact with other adults as a kid.
Sure.
As an adult, you see the way the kids interact. So it gives you those different perspectives. And I think that's really, that's a big advantage that a lot of people don't see as an advantage. A lot of times it's like, I got to go to Granny's house and make an appearance and,
That's right.
that sort of thing. And I think hindsight's a bit of a gift. I'm not saying that there wasn't those times where it's like, I'd really rather do something else.
Sure.
But I think the impact that family has can't be understated. I won the parent lottery, they're still together 40 some years later, that whole, high school sweetheart story kind of thing.
Yeah.
But just getting getting that foundation of a great family that not a lot of people, or not everyone has.
Right.
You know, so I don't take that for granted. So I would say family's and family, you know, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's gonna be, like any family, there's gonna be dynamics, there's gonna be pain, there's gonna be tragedy, there's gonna be arguments, there's gonna be things like that. So I just think having that is a really, I don't know, it's transformational when you, with the more candles you get on your cake,
Yeah.
the more you
That's
can
right.
appreciate the past, I think.
That's right. Can we lean into that a little bit? You talked about family and how family comes together, and your family experienced some tragedy
Yeah,
early on.
sure.
So my sister and Mary,
Yeah.
went to school together.
Yeah.
and we're good friends. Tell Mary's story if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I am 7 years older than my younger sister, and she was diagnosed at 16 years old with glioblastoma. Glioblastoma is bats 1,000. No one makes it out alive, and they told us that in the very beginning. They said this will be her cause of death, barring any kind of accident. Right. Typically, a glioblastoma patient will make it 18 months, and Mary died just shy of 20, so we got almost 4 years of that. So, you know, the gift of that, and I would not have said it as a gift in that time.
Right.
It's more of like swearing at God and, you know, having those difficult conversations, and takes a lot of different forms kind of thing. But I think now, you know, 14 years later, looking back at that, my alarm clock still says Mary did not get today, you do.
Wow.
And so looking at it and using that pain and that suffering as fuel to motivate you forward, I think that's a choice, right? Not everyone chooses that, but, you know, if you can lean into that kind of power, it's impossible for me to hit the snooze button.
Right.
Impossible. I can't do it, right? Does it happen? Maybe sometimes.
Sure.
But if I ever connect getting up with my sister not getting another day, and I get this day, like, you're not gonna sit there and hit the snooze. You're gonna let the snooze button win? No, another 9 minutes of terrible sleep
Right.
for what? You know that. So the tragedy and the pain of losing a sibling, and then using that as fuel to move you forward. Again, I think it's a choice. It's a choice that you have to continue to choose, because there are those days where you're like, "Come on, God,
Yeah.
put that 20 in the plate."
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know, I've been here 7 Sundays in a row.
That's right.
You know, you start doing that
Sure.
justification and that conversation with God, and I mean, I don't know your relationship with God, but mine is like any other relationship. There's good days and bad days, and we have some real conversations. I think that's the way that it's supposed to be. Yeah. So, yeah, using that tragedy, using the pain of that to move forward, I think is an important choice. That if you're not there, leaning into the possibility of that, I think is a real healthy place. You can most certainly take that and do all the other things that aren't really productive.
Yeah.
You're justified in that. You can do that. That's an absolute choice. But if that's not getting you where you want to go, I invite you to look at a different way of looking at it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I knew, like I said, in our previous conversations, we haven't really unpacked that together, but I knew, knowing you and where you are today, that I didn't know, you know, the connection there and how you use that for fuel, but I knew that was an early impact in your life that drove you to create further impact. So
Sure.
Kudos for the way that you have used that tragedy. You do have an awesome family. I remember, I'm sure my parents and my sister probably still have the God is Good,
Yeah.
Mary Moser shirts,
Yeah.
from then and their high school days. But certainly, community came together praying for her, and it's inspiring to see how you have taken that and gone forward in a great way in her honor.
Yeah.
And living out each day. So appreciate you sharing that. Anybody else? And so we've talked about family and the inspiration. other people in life. So family early on, I think that's natural for a lot of people. Most folks either great family story or not a great family story.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so then I'm going to say after school, right, as you get into your early adult life, who was it that had an impact on you just to maybe to be the best employee you could be in the beginning, right?
I think that's the way it was. So in my career, so definition of success, societal expectation, whatever it is, we never really talked about goals, or, goals were something like be the best person you can, that kind of basic stuff, not good, not bad, just kind of the basics. And so life goes, go to school, get married, buy a house, get a job, climb the corporate ladder, contribute to a 401k, and die, right? That's kind of the through line. At least that's kind of my impression of it. And so getting into a job, right? I went to school. I got a fish and wildlife degree. I used it zero. Came back home, started at a new bakery that was opening up here in town.
Okay.
And it was in the industrial park. I remember. And so the corporate headquarters was in Colorado, and one of the main guys, they were starting this bakery. So I started low sanitation worker. My uncle called and he's like, hey, I got on the maintenance over here. You should come get on the sanitation here. That way it's a bigger company and you could grow. And I was like, all right, let's do it. Plus they were going to offer me more money. All right, let's do it. So, right place, right time, a little smart mouth, a little, good work ethic from my parents. And, I started having conversations with one of the directors and kind of, I guess, took me under his wing. He saw something in me that I had no idea, right? So he starts grooming. He's like, hey, you should get in this conversation over here. What do you think about this? And, I'm a kid. I'm 25 years old.
Right.
And so, and a short fuse and a smart mouth, right? I still have those.
Right.
But, I worked on my filter over the years. But just being in those rooms and asking some questions, and it gave me a shot. It gave me a shot to see different things and to go to the different classes and to be in the rooms of the people. And just hearing that was a huge, like, prior to that, it is go to work, punch the clock, do my task list, and go home kind of thing, which sounds nice.
Right.
Sometimes
Right. Yeah.
running your own business, it would be really nice to punch the clock every once in a while. But, once you kind of have that Morpheus Matrix moment where you take that pill and you kind of see the other side of it, you're like, oh, this is how it works. You get that little glimpse of, okay, I don't have to be the one swinging the hammer. Nothing wrong with swinging the hammer.
Right.
I'll swing a hammer with you right now. But if I can lead the hammer swingers, not only do I make more money, I get to move into more of my sphere of genius. I can swing a hammer with the best of them.
Right.
I am a really good leader, naturally.
Right.
Right. I don't mean that to sound arrogant or elitist,
no.
but it's like when you step into that, you're like, oh, okay, I got it now.
Right.
I got it now. And, so with leadership, you have to, have that kind of ability to lead people. But, seeing those different conversations, being in those rooms, my mentor gave me that gift of like, hey, check this out.
Right.
And then a kind of a side story of that's also had a very big impact in my life is travel.
Okay.
My mentor saw a canned beer drinking hillbilly from Mayberry, North Carolina with a girl's name.
Yeah.
And said, I'm going to take this dude to San Francisco on Halloween night, and we're going to tour wine country. First time I'd ever been on a commercial airline.
Yeah.
And we landed in San Francisco, right? Downtown San Francisco. And you talk about a culture shock. I'm like,
Culture shock.
what do you mean not everyone is white, middle class, and Christian? Because that's where I'm from,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Like, what is this? There's everything you can possibly imagine. So it's a shock to that system. And he did that repeatedly. And years later, he said the reason we could have went to the training in Greensboro,
right,
or somewhere closer to home. But he's like, I wanted you to expose you to the different cultures and different areas and get you out of your bubble. And that gift alone, right, just seeing difference,
Sure.
I think is a huge impact. Yeah, for sure.
That's priceless.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I traveled quite a bit early in my career, and it was similar story, right? I didn't set out that I thought I was going to go, travel the world or work all over the world, but getting put into some of those places, you realize the world is different, and you have a different global view, I think, just from the travel. You have a different view of a lot of things, just from that exposure to saying, hey, there's a lot of different folks in the world, and that's okay. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's what makes the world go round. And
I think once you travel like outside of the U.S. too, that gets doubly important, right?
yes.
I go into a restaurant and ordering food in Warsaw, Poland, sounding and looking like I sound,
Right.
it has its own kind of, was I ever afraid? Not really, but it's having to be the minority, having to, I don't sound Polish, I don't look Polish, I don't act Polish, and just to have to do that because I got to eat.
That's right.
That kind of thing. That's an education that can't be replicated in a book or with even this podcast. We're talking about it right now, but unless you go to Finland, you go to Helsinki, Finland, and eat horse with people that don't speak English,
right.
I couldn't tell you. I can't tell you what that's like. You have to experience that, and when you get that experience, it's like that little. That other tool or that other skill that you get to put in your toolbox.
You unlock something you didn't.
Yeah. It's really hard to explain.
Absolutely. Not to go down a travel story path, but first time I went to Italy, I'm an Eagle Scout, so I try to be prepared. In no way did I make any preparation for this trip whatsoever other than packing my bag and booking my trip. And it was me and a friend traveling for work. We get there. And we've been, you fly all day to get there, or all night in that case, land early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
We drive 2 hours from the airport in Italy. We have no idea where we are. We just have an address, and we're optimistic that the directions on the phone are going to get us where we're trying to go. So we're hungry. We stop at a restaurant to eat. We go in. Of course, this is Italy. Nobody speaks English.
Right.
Nobody. The menu. Nothing is in English. Why would it be? I think we were going there expecting it because everything around us is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so we sit down, and I remember staring at the menu for like 5 minutes. And I looked up at him and I said, "What are you going to get?" And he was like, "I was hoping you were going to order first because I don't know what anything says." And the only thing that I could see that I thought was remotely close was, and it didn't say pollo, but I was like, that is not Spanish, but that looks like kind of broken Spanish chicken salad. I'm going to order that. And it worked out okay.
Nice, yeah.
And of course, Coca-Cola
Got it.
is Coke.
Yeah.
So I had a Coke and a chicken salad because that was the only thing I could piece together on the menu. And I learned a lot of lessons from that, right? On just how to travel and being prepared.
Yeah.
And that, hey, you know what? The world is not all what we see in small town America.
Right.
Right. That's a good thing. So
When you talk like this, what I've noticed, and we talked a little bit about this, when you have a Southern accent and you go to, especially most of my travel was in Europe and Scandinavian countries and things like that, they really like a Southern accent, and you can kind of play that tool a little bit because they've seen like Honey Boo Boo and Swamp People and those shows, and that's their perspective of what a Southern American. And then when you show up wearing shoes and you have most of your teeth and you can put together a sentence, it kind of shocks people. So I would lay it on as thick as I possibly could. It has
full
got
draw comes out.
It's got me upgrades on planes. It's got me like behind the velvet rope kind of thing. But just travel. Just get out there and see this big world.
Absolutely. And I always tell people, if you've, because there's people that have never been out of the county they grew up in.
Right, yeah.
And I said, just go somewhere. Just get in the car and go Go to the next community over. Go to the next state over. Go explore. I love to do that, and I still do as much as I can.
Right.
So back to the topic.
Yeah.
Off of the travel. So corporate world was good to you.
Yeah.
Traveled the world, climbed the corporate ladder.
Yep.
But you get to this point, right, where you say, hey, this is good. Paycheck's probably good. Stress is probably high. You're always somewhere different. You're driving metrics. You're pushing P&Ls, whatever that may be. But you get to this point where you say, hey, I feel called. I feel led to do more, to do something else, to get something different. Talk us through that transition of corporate world to moving your butt and starting the Moser Movement and kind of transitioning from corporate to where you are today.
Yeah. I was always the guy that would sit at the desk and think about the next rung on the ladder and how to get there, right? I started at that sanitation job. I was the supervisor of the sanitation crew in a couple of weeks, right?
Okay.
And again, that's lack of bodies, work ethic that's pretty good, and being in the right place, right time. So I was a supervisor. And I was thinking, I told my boss when I came there, I'm coming after your job. Kind of tongue-in-cheek,
Sure.
kind of joking,
Sure.
serious,
Right.
but more like, how do I get there? Like, show me what's going on. And so just kind of started climbing those rungs in search of this thing called fulfillment that at least I thought was going to be there. So next rung of the ladder, job title gets bigger, salary gets bigger, team gets bigger, fulfillment's got to be there, happiness has got to be there, right? That's where everybody says it is.
You certainly think so.
So I got there, and you're like, well, this ain't it. It must be on the next rung.
That's right.
It's got to be, right? If it's not the next one, it's the next one.
Right.
I mean, that's what you said. You said it was going to be here. You said, get a job, climb the corporate ladder.
Right.
That's what I'm doing. And so from like a year, I went from sanitation worker to director of food safety and quality at this multi-million-dollar national bakery. And it wasn't there. It wasn't there. I was like, okay, maybe it's maybe it's this place.
Right.
Maybe it's this place.
Right.
Let me go to a different place. And you know, the honeymoon phase is about a year. You know, you're getting your feet wet, you're getting the relationships built, you're starting to see the different programs and systems and things like that. You're driving change. 3 years later, you're like, it's this place.
Right.
This ain't it either. You know. So you're like, all right, let's go. Where are we going next? ... got me to Florida. And, you know, I had always the people that would come and knock on the door and say, hey, Kelly, have you got a minute? And that typically meant that they were going to talk trash about their wife or a colleague, or they had something going on in their life where they felt comfortable enough to come into my office. We'd shut the door and we have a human conversation. Sure. I didn't do that intentionally. It's just kind of, I guess, my personality and whatever. But we'd sit there, and I know a lot of stuff about a lot of, you know, it's like, there's been a lot of those times where the guy's like, you're not going to say anything about this. You're like, yeah, right. Safe place. And then one guy said, you know, let me pay you for this. I'm in here every week. I was like, pay me for what? Like, we work together. We're friends. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
He said, well, you're kind of like my life coach. And I was like, what? I don't know what that is.
Right.
Like, he's like, you should Google it. So I did. And I was like, turns out people make a living doing this. And I was like, okay, that was kind of, I had started my personal development, my own kind of internal personal development stuff, listening to the Jim Rohns and the Zig Ziglars and the old school guy reading Think and Grow Rich and how to influence people, you know, all that stuff. And then this kind of gave me oh, that's something that I can do. Right. Kind of that moment, just that little thing. So I went to one of those seminars where you got the guru on stage and it's very motivational and they're going to teach you some things. And I started being those seminar junkie kind of thing, going around to all those. I'm standing out front of one of those doors waiting to be led into this thing. And you got to run to the front, right? You got to be in the ambiance and the essence of the guru. So I'm all jazzed up, and there's an older guy, well dressed, standing beside of me, and we start talking, and he's asking me questions, and I just felt myself going, I'm to a point where it's good, but and I would say like, I want to, I really want to get in better shape physically, but who's got the time?
Right.
And I was like, my relationships it's okay, but I'd really like to take that, but, and I'm not good enough for a happy ever after. And
Right.
I just felt myself doing that over and over and over. And he didn't give me any advice. He just kind of waited for me to vomit words at him for however long it was,
Right.
And then he's like, well, Kelly, what do you think you should do? And before the internal filter could kick in, I blurted out, I guess I need to move my butt. And his eyes got big, and my eyes got big. And he kind of, this is like the Hallmark movie. This is like the Hallmark movie moment where the angel comes in. He kind of gave me a look, not really, but just kind of stood there in the moment for a second, and then turned around, and the doors opened, and he went that way. I couldn't tell you who he was, where he is, what his name was, anything like that.
Right.
Meanwhile, my brain is on fire, right? I grabbed my notepad and I'm scribbling. I got on there and I'm buying the domain, move your butt, and I kind of workshopping this thing, and 20 minutes goes by and I kind of go into the room or whatever. And that's kind of the genesis of it, because it was so real to me that I got these big visions of grandeur. I got the wish list and the want and the ambition and all that stuff. And the reason that I can't get that, or I won't get that, is the but. Right. The but that then follows an excuse, a limiting belief, or some kind of negative self-talk. Right? I don't have time. I'm not good enough for that.
Right.
Some dumb hillbilly with a girl's name's gonna be a motivational speaker.
Right.
Yeah, take another sip, Jack.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so in my own life, kind of processing those buts, and now the but's more the clue of what the problem is. So I'm a process program kind of person.
Right.
So moving through that with a process, that's kind of the genesis of the move your butt. Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. So Kelly, you talk about the impact of that conversation with the man that you don't know. Like it's not somebody you can, he's not mentioned by name or in the credits, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the impact that he had was life changing. And I think a lot of people you went that day for that $1 million seminar. I got to get close to the front as I can. I've got to get right in the action, because today's the day I'm going to get this $1 million seminar, signed up for it. And when I leave, that's going to be what makes me $1 million.
Yeah.
Right. And whether that's in 1 year or over the lifetime or whatever that is, right? I think we sign up for these things. Today it's, we may be scrolling through social media and click, 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 because we think that the takeaway is going to be whatever that content is. And a lot of times the content's great, right? But the content's a piece of the puzzle. It takes us one step closer to where we're trying to go.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it could be the interaction in the crowd. Just like you literally, it was life-changing for you, the conversation you had at the door before you got that front row seat for the motivational speaker. And so, that's, you see that today, even let's talk through that. You're a keynote speaker.
Yeah.
You're on stage today, but talk through that. That because you've had that backstage
Right.
or that before you walk in the door experience, and you can connect that with your audience today.
Yeah. I think standing on stage and having that kind of through line, I try to give and facilitate the groups, the small, intimate groups where the relationships are going to be built, because no one's going to lead with, hey, I got this $1 million idea. You want to hear about it? If they do, it's probably not. I mean, that's just my experience. It's going to get into the group. I want you in a group where you're like, hey, when you're not at these guru meetings, what do you love to do? And you're going to say hiking, biking, fishing, smoking a cigar, whatever it is, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the other person is going to go, you like fishing? What do you like fish for? And then you're going to start that conversation. You're going to have that relationship. You're going to build that thing.
Right.
Then you talk about, when you get a tighter group, when you get like-minded people, when you got those groups together, that's where the magic happens, to keep it very cheesy.
Absolutely.
But when I'm standing on stage, I also know that people are going to tune in and tune out. I like to think that I'm a good speaker. I've got a lot of work that I need to do personally to become better. Or am I going to hold that entire audience for 2 hours? No, I don't need to. I need to speak to the individuals where they are in hopes that they'll listen to one sentence and let that thing click.
Right.
They've probably heard their wife or their pastor or somebody else say this before, some social media person. But for that moment, for whatever reason, I'm a God guy, so I think these are God moments where God's like, okay, you've heard this enough. Let's really hear this now.
Right.
Let's really hear this now. And I hope they tune me out for the next 10 minutes so they can process this thing and write their own notes and start their own because as much as I like being introduced as a motivational speaker, I think it's garbage. Right? Like, you can get motivated looking at some dude doing push-ups on an Instagram reel.
Right.
That doesn't mean you're going to do push-ups.
100%.
So motivation is important.
Right.
But if we don't strike while the iron is hot, if we don't start moving into those actions, motivation is just something you say because it's cute, right?
Absolutely.
So when I'm on stage, I understand that I got to get you motivated. I got to resonate with you. I got to build that relationship with you as fast as I can. I got to resonate. I got to speak my truth. I got to have emotion in it, all those things. But I also have to give you tools, actionable steps that you can do right where you are with the resources that you have
100%.
and get moving in that direction, right? We were talking earlier about the camera setup today.
Yeah.
Right? And I said, when you were workshopping this whole thing, I'm sure that at some point you're like, I don't have any fancy cameras or lighting equipment or mics or any of that stuff. And that's what I'm talking about. That keeps you from doing that thing until you get motivated and you're like, you got to start somewhere. Let's buy some lapel mics. And here we are.
That's right.
So being on stage and trying to understand, I'm just speaking really to who I used to be, right? I am on step I'm on step whatever, right? If you look at this as an alphabet, maybe I'm on step F.
Right.
I'm speaking to the C's,
right,
that are here to learn, that have that same kind of there's more to this life kind of thing, trying to speak some motivation into them, try to give them some actionable steps, and then give them a swift kick on the ass and send them on their way.
Right.
Like the coach gives you that right before you run out on the
right.
You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
that's why I love what I do, because I get to see where I used to be. I get to see that ambition and that that they're ready, they're poised. They just need that little guidance and then that pat to go. So
absolutely. Not to go back to family, but talking about the coach. So played football at North.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget in the halftime of the Mount Airy North Surrey game, my junior year, and Mitch, your uncle, right?
Yep.
Comes in the locker room and he gives this fired up. I don't remember what he said. I mean, I don't remember what he said, but everybody in that locker room could have tore the door off the field house to get back out on the field. Right. We were so pumped, so motivated to go make it happen from that speech. And so you get that, and that's an awesome part. That's an awesome, analogy of what you do. Hey, you've heard me. I'm here, but you have to go do something.
Yeah.
With what my wife's given me a hard time about that before, because I'm like absorbing every podcast. I'm reading every book.
Yeah.
Especially early in the journey, right? Like you're just drinking through a fire hose of more, trying to take all this in.
Yeah.
All right, this is all great. You got this stack of books, but what are you doing with it, right? She was in a different way telling me to move my butt, right? And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. Like I'm just spinning my wheels here.
Yeah.
I got to do something about it.
Sure.
And so that's when you start getting those gears to click and making things happen, that's when the magic happens, right? Really awesome things happen. So I know we just got a couple minutes left before we wrap up. One thing I wanna share is I've known you, right? We've known each other, known of each other our whole lives, but it's awesome to see the work that you're doing. I'm inspired personally by the work you're doing. We talked about that in previous conversation, but you're just a real guy, easy to talk to, down to earth, and I think that connects you with your audiences and helps them to just feel comfortable to have that conversation, whether it's in the corporate office, hey, do you have a minute?
Right.
That really helps you build what you've got going today. Let's talk real quick. Just if somebody, so you've got a podcast, you've got a lot of awesome things going on. Tell us real quick, just as we wrap things up, tell us, how do we find Kelly Moser?
Yeah, you can go to kellymoser.com. That's going to get you into the world. You can follow me on social media. My social media is aimed at me, right? So when you hear me say the things that I say on social media, it's typically because there's something that happened in my life where I'm trying to speak into myself. And I know if I keep doing that, there's going to be at least another person that resonates with, and maybe they can get moving. But I'm a coach and a consultant, so if you've got a business or a team that needs to level up, hey, let's have a conversation. If you have an event where you need a speaker, I would love to have a conversation about that. I do the free conversations because I love people and I love having these type of conversations, and I know that if I do that enough, it's going to lead to business. So get into kellymoser.com, follow me. You can DM or email me, or however the kids are doing it these days.
Sure.
And I really am passionate about seeing people move their butt. They shift those beliefs, they understand what success looks like, and then they take those actions. So that's the acronym to move your butt. And if I can get one person to do that today, hey, that's great. I'd love to hear about it for my own vanity and ego's sake. So hey, reach out and say, hey, I loved what you said. That just kind of fuels me that I know I'm on the right track. But also, I'd love to hear your story. If you've got a move your butt moment, send me an email or send me a DM. I'd love to walk you through that. If you've got a butt that you're like, I'm tired of dragging this thing around, right? Hey, let's have a conversation. Let me see if I can add some value to you. I am not your messiah. I am not your guru. Right. I've got a lot of mistakes that I've made, and I hope you make those same mistakes so that you have that realization. But if I can help steer you in the right direction, I'd love that opportunity. So yeah, that's what I would say to whoever's listening.
That's awesome. Well, there's so much here, and I think we could probably have another episode together.
Oh yeah,
continuing to unpack what you do today, and your story as it continues to unfold. But thanks again for making the trip up here. Appreciate you, appreciate your work, and look forward to continuing the conversation in the future.
likewise.
Awesome. Friends, this is Your Impact Story. Thanks for tuning in today. Like, follow, share, and we'll see you on the next episode. Have a great day.
There you go.
We're out.
Cool. This is when you applaud. Yeah.